The parking lot was dimly lit, shadows stretching across the cracked asphalt like long fingers reaching for something to grasp. A woman's cry pierced the quiet night, sharp and frightened. "Stop it! Let go of me!" Her designer coat was torn at the shoulder, her phone shattered on the ground. Three young men in Letterman jackets surrounded her, their laughter cutting through the cold autumn air. Everyone walked by, everyone except one man. In the fluorescent glow of Carter's mini-mart, Zayn Holloway counted out crumpled bills for milk and bread. His weathered hands were calloused from years of hard work, his shirt clinging to sweat after a long day fixing engines. To the cashier, he was just the tired single dad who sometimes couldn't afford the strawberry milk his daughter loved. To the people of Brenton, California, he was the mechanic who fixed flat tires for seniors without charging them. The man who always had a toolbox in his truck and time to spare when someone was stranded. "Daddy, can I have strawberry milk?" 6-year-old Lily looked up at him with her mother's eyes, the same warm brown that still haunted his dreams 5 years after cancer took her. "Sure, sweetheart." Zane's voice was gentle with her, always a promise he'd made to Sarah as she slipped away. He'd be the father their daughter deserved, no matter what life threw at them. The register beeped as Mrs. Carter, the elderly owner, scanned their modest groceries. "How's that old truck running, Zane?" she asked, bagging their items. "Still fighting," he answered with a half-smile. "Like its owner. Always fighting to stay above water since Mitchell Dwight had cut him loose with nothing but rumors and black marks on his record. 18 years serving his country meant nothing once Dwight decided Zane was a problem. "You two have a good night now." Mrs. Carter handed Lily a lollipop with a wink. Outside, the air held the chill of early autumn. Stars pierced the darkness above the small town shopping center. Zane breathed it in, appreciating simple moments like these, hand in hand with his daughter. Enough food for the week. The garage rent paid for another month. Then he heard it. A cry, sharp and frightened. "Stop it! Let go of me!" His head turned toward the sound before his mind even processed the words, old instincts never quite dormant. At the far corner of the parking lot, partially hidden by a black SUV, three young men surrounded a woman. College boys, from the looks of their Letterman jackets. The tallest one had her by the arm. "Daddy?" Lily squeezed his hand, sensing the change in him. Zane's mind worked quickly, assessing the situation. 3 against 1. The woman was well-dressed, out of place in this part of town. No obvious weapons, but the tall one was getting aggressive. He knelt down to Lily's level, keeping his voice steady. "Sweetheart, I need you to do something important for me." Her small face turned serious. She knew this voice. "What, Daddy?" "Go back inside to Mrs. Carter. Tell her to keep you safe. Tell her I'll be right back." He placed the grocery bag beside her. "Can you do that for me?" Lily nodded without question, trust in her eyes. She turned and walked quickly back to the store entrance, clutching her strawberry milk. Zane straightened up, rolling his shoulders back. Each step toward the commotion felt familiar. Not rushing, measured. The way he'd approached trouble in dusty streets halfway around the world. "Hey!" His voice cut through the night air, not shouting. Command voice, the kind that makes people stand up straight without knowing why. The trio turned, the tall one still gripping the woman's arm. Contempt flashed across his face at the sight of Zayn in his worn jeans and faded work shirt. "Mind your own business, old man." The words slurred slightly. Liquid courage. Zayn didn't stop walking. "Let her go. You've got 5 seconds." The shortest of the three laughed. "What, you gonna fight all of us?" Zayn stopped 10 feet away, a safe distance. 3 seconds now." The woman looked at him, mascara streaking down her cheeks, blood on her lip where someone had struck her. Her eyes met his, desperate, pleading. "You're safe now," he said, her not to the boys. A promise. The tall one shoved her aside and lunged toward Zayn. Poor balance, telegraphing his move. Zayn stepped to the side, caught the boy's extended arm, twisted, and used the kid's own momentum to put him face down on the asphalt. Simple mechanics, leverage, nothing fancy. The scream that followed made the other two freeze in their tracks. Zayn held the position, applying just enough pressure to make his point without causing real damage. "Your friend made a mistake," Zayn said quietly to the others. "Don't make another one." They backed away, then broke into a run across the parking lot. Zayn released the tall one's arm. Go on, get out of here. The young man scrambled to his feet, cradling his arm, face red with humiliation more than pain. He spat words at Zayn before stumbling after his friends. Only then did Zayn approach the woman. You okay? She nodded, stunned. I, I think so. You hurt? His eyes scanned for injuries beyond the split lip. Just scared. Her voice was soft, cultured, the kind that spoke of private schools and country clubs. I'll call someone for you, Mo. No, she said suddenly, panic in her eyes. No cops, please. Zayn studied her for a moment. Everything about her screamed money. The coat alone probably cost more than his monthly rent. But something in her eyes told a different story. I'm not from here, she whispered, glancing around nervously. I can't be seen here. Zayn didn't press. He just took off his jacket and gently wrapped it around her shoulders. Fall nights got cold in California. You hungry? He asked simply. She looked confused by the question. I've got leftover lasagna and a 6-year-old who talks too much. He offered it like the most natural thing in the world. The woman looked like she might cry again, relief mixing with disbelief. What's your name? He asked. Harper, she said quietly. Harper Dwight. Zayn felt like he'd been punched in the gut. His face didn't show it. Years of practice hiding reactions. But that name hit hard, Dwight. The same name that had been stitched on the office door of the man who'd ruined his life. Mitchell Dwight, CEO of Dwight Technologies, where Zayn had worked security after leaving the Marines. He didn't say a word, just opened his truck door and helped her in. The engine rumbled as Zayn pulled out of the parking lot, Lily secured in her booster seat in the back. Harper sat silently beside him, hands clutching his oversized jacket around her shoulders. Her designer dress looked out of place against the worn fabric of the passenger seat. You're limping, Zayn observed, keeping his eyes on the road. Harper looked down at her feet. The heel of her expensive shoe was snapped clean off. Just twisted my ankle a little. Zayn adjusted the heater, filling the silence with warm air. 10 minutes later, they pulled into a modest neighborhood, small houses with patchy lawns, kids' bicycles left in driveways, an American flag waving in the night breeze. He killed the engine and turned to her. You don't have to come in if you're not comfortable. I can drive you anywhere you want. Harper looked at him. Really looked. You stepped in. Risked yourself. You didn't even know who I was. Didn't matter who you were. You needed help. That simple truth made her chest tighten. In her world, everything came with conditions, agendas, expectations. She hadn't heard a sentence that sincere in years. Inside, the house was small but clean and tidy, despite the obvious signs of a single father raising a young child. Crayon drawings hung on the refrigerator. A worn couch faced a modest television. A pair of pink rain boots sat by the door. Daddy! Lily ran from the hallway, arms wide. But when she saw Harper, she paused, eyes wide with curiosity. Zayn knelt down. Hey, this is Miss Harper. She's going to stay for a little while. She's had a rough night. Okay. Lily nodded seriously, then walked up to Harper with the direct approach only children have. You want my blanket? It's soft. Harper knelt to the child's level, unexpected tears threatening. That would be amazing. Thank you. Dinner was quiet. Harper picked at the reheated lasagna while Zayn and Lily talked about school, her art project, and whether there might be time this weekend to go to the park. Normal things, family things, the mundane miracle of everyday life. Harper watched them, feeling the ache of something she'd never really had. This tiny kitchen with its chipped countertops somehow felt more like home than the mansion she'd grown up in. Later that night, Harper sat on the couch with a cup of tea Zayn had made. He stepped out of Lily's room, gently closing the door behind him. She's finally asleep, he said, rubbing his eyes, the day's weariness showing in the lines of his face. You didn't have to bring me here, Harper said. Didn't have to stop those kids either, Zayn replied, settling into the armchair across from her. She looked down at her tea. Why did you? Zayn was quiet for a moment. Because I've seen what happens when people don't. Overseas, stateside, doesn't matter. When you walk past someone crying out for help, you lose a piece of yourself. She studied him. You were in the military. Marines, 18 years. That explains how you handled those guys. A pause. What did you do after? Security work, mostly. His voice was neutral now. Careful. Personal protection for executives. Her head shot up. Personal protection? Zayn's face remained impassive, but inside, recognition was setting in. Harper Dwight, daughter of Mitchell Dwight, the CEO who had fired Zayn 3 years ago after he'd reported suspicious activity within the company. The man who'd blacklisted him throughout the industry, claiming Zayn had violated security protocols. "You okay?" he asked her, deflecting. Harper nodded. "I was just thinking, no one's ever protected me like that. Not without wanting something in return." Zayn stood slowly. "Then you've been around the wrong people." Harper's voice cracked slightly. "Yeah, I guess I have." He left her with a pillow and blanket. As he turned out the lights, he didn't say goodnight. He just said, "You're safe here. No one's going to harm you." And she believed him. For the first time in years, she believed someone. Morning light filtered through the curtains. Zayn had been up since 5 o'clock, his body still on military time even years later. He sat at the kitchen table, coffee mug warming his hands, listening to the birds outside. Moments of quiet before Lily woke up, before the world demanded things from him again. His mind kept circling back to the woman asleep on his couch. Harper Dwight. The irony wasn't lost on him. 3 years of struggling after Mitchell Dwight had crushed his reputation, and now the man's daughter was sleeping under his roof. The floorboards creaked. Harper appeared in the doorway, hair tousled, wearing the same clothes from yesterday, Zayn's jacket still around her shoulders. "Morning," he said in standing. "Coffee, please." Her voice was rough with sleep. He poured her a cup and slid it across the table. "Cream's in the fridge if you want it." She took the coffee, black, wrapping her hands around the mug like it might anchor her. "Thank you for everything." Zayn nodded, simple acknowledgement. "I should call someone," she said after a moment. "I need to get back." Phones on the wall, landline, old school. He couldn't afford the latest smartphone on a mechanic's wages. Harper hesitated. Would it be possible to borrow some clothes? I can't exactly go anywhere like this." She gestured to her torn dress. "Might have some things of Sarah's that would fit you," Zayn said, the name coming out before he could stop it. Sarah, his wife. Past tense, always painful. "She passed 5 years ago." "I'm sorry." And she meant it. He could see that. 30 minutes later, Harper emerged from the bathroom wearing jeans and a simple blouse that had once belonged to Sarah. Clothes Zayn couldn't bring himself to donate, even after all this time. They fit her well enough, though Sarah had been a little taller. Lily was awake now, eating cereal at the table, legs swinging. "You look pretty," she told Harper with a child's honesty. Harper smiled, the first real smile Zayn had seen from her arm. "Thank you, Lily." The knock at the door was unexpected. Hard. Official. Zayn tensed automatically, old habits surfacing. "Stay here," he told them quietly. Through the peephole, he saw 2 men in suits. Behind them, news vans. His stomach dropped. He opened the door just enough to block the view inside. "Can I help you?" "Mr. Holloway?" The taller man flashed a badge. "Private security, not police." "We're looking for Harper Dwight. We have a reason to believe she's here." "How did you find this address, sir?" "Ms. Dwight's phone has a tracking feature. Her father is very concerned." Zayn kept his expression neutral. "Wait here." He closed the door and turned to find Harper standing in the hallway, face pale. "They found me." "Your phone," Zayn said. "Even broken, they can track it." Her shoulders slumped. "I should have known he'd send people." "You don't have to go with them," Zayn said. "Not if you don't want to." Harper looked at him, surprise crossing her features. "You'd let me stay, even knowing who I am?" "That's your choice to make." She took a deep breath. "No, I have to face this." She hesitated. "Would you come with me, just to make sure I get somewhere safe?" Zayn glanced at Lily, who was watching them with curious eyes. "Mrs. Carter can watch Lily for an hour. Let me make a call." The black SUV was expensive, foreign, the kind of vehicle that stood out in this neighborhood for all the wrong reasons. Zayn sat beside Harper in the back seat, his presence a silent support as they drove through town. The security men kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror, clearly uncomfortable with his addition to their retrieval mission. "Where are we going?" Zayn asked when they passed the turn for downtown. The private airfield, the driver answered curtly. Mr. Dwight's jet is waiting. Harper's hand found Zayn's in the space between them. A silent plea. Her fingers were cold, trembling slightly. He gave them a reassuring squeeze. The small regional airport came into view, and beyond it, a sleek private jet on the tarmac. As they approached, Zayn could see a tall figure standing at the bottom of the stairs. Even from a distance, the commanding presence was unmistakable. Mitchell Dwight, gray hair perfectly styled, tailored suit that probably cost more than Zayn's yearly rent. A face Zayn had once seen daily when working security for Dwight Technologies. The SUV stopped. The security men got out first, opening Harper's door. Zayn exited on his side, standing straight, ready. Mitchell Dwight's eyes narrowed when he spotted Zayn. Recognition, then confusion, then something harder. Harper, he called, ignoring Zayn completely. Get in the jet, now. Harper stepped forward, still wearing Sarah's clothes. No, Dad, I'm not going anywhere until we talk. This isn't the place, Mitchell's voice was cold, controlled. The voice that closed million-dollar deals and fired people without remorse. Then where is the place? Harper challenged. Your office, where you control everything? Home, where the staff reports everything I do? Mitchell's gaze finally shifted to Zayn. You, I remember you. Security detail. You were fired for cause. Zayn met his gaze steadily. That's one version of the story. Dad, stop it, Harper interjected. This man helped me when I was in trouble. He protected me when no one else would. Protected you? Mitchell scoffed. Do you have any idea what you've done? The headlines already, Dwight heiress found in ex-employee's home. The stock dropped 3 points this morning. Is that all you care about? Harper's voice cracked. Not that I was attacked, not that I was scared. Of course I care, Mitchell said, but his eyes kept darting to his watch. That's why I'm here, to take you home, away from... He gestured vaguely at Zayn. Complications. Zayn stood silently, letting them talk. This wasn't his fight. But when Mitchell stepped forward and grabbed Harper's arm roughly, something shifted. Let go of her. Zayn's voice was quiet but firm. Mitchell turned, surprise flashing across his face. Excuse me? I said let go. She doesn't want to go with you right now. Mitchell released Harper's arm, turning his full attention to Zayn. You're interfering in a family matter after I've already been more than generous, not pressing charges for whatever happened last night. Nothing happened, Harper said firmly. He helped me, gave me a safe place to stay. And I'm sure he expects nothing in return, Mitchell said sarcastically. No money, no favors, no revenge for being fired. Zayn's jaw tightened. I expect nothing, never did. Mitchell studied him, calculating. Everyone wants something, Holloway. What's your price? Not everyone is like you, Dad, Harper said quietly. Mitchell ignored her, eyes fixed on Zayn. Name it. Money? A job? What will it take for you to walk away right now and forget you ever met my daughter? The autumn wind picked up, rustling through the nearby trees. In the distance, another plane took off, the roar momentarily drowning out all other sounds. Zayn waited until it passed. Nothing, he finally said. I don't want anything from you. Mitchell laughed, short and sharp. Come on, Holloway. You're living in a rental house in the bad part of town, fixing cars for minimum wage. You expect me to believe you don't want a piece of the Dwight fortune? Dad, stop it, Harper's voice rose. He's not like that. Mitchell turned to his daughter. You've known this man for, what, 12 hours? And suddenly you're an expert on his character? I know he helped me when no one else would, Harper countered. I know he has a daughter he's raising alone. I know he offered me safety without asking questions. Zayn placed a hand on Harper's shoulder. It's okay. I should get back to Lily anyway. Mitchell's eyebrows rose slightly at the mention of a child. Something flickered across his face. Not quite compassion, but recognition, perhaps. Wait, Harper said to Zayn. She turned to her father. I'll go with you, Dad, but on one condition. Mitchell waited, expression guarded. You leave Zayn alone. Completely. And, she took a deep breath, I want to be able to thank him properly. He helped me when I needed it most. Mitchell looked between them, calculating as always. Fine. Get in the jet. We'll discuss the details later. Harper turned to Zayn. Thank you again for everything. Zayn nodded once. Take care of yourself, Harper. As he watched the jet door close behind them, Zayn felt a strange mix of relief and concern. The Dwights were out of his life again. That should have been the end of it. But somehow he knew it wasn't. A week passed, life returned to its familiar rhythm. Zayn fixed cars at the garage, helped Lily with her homework, paid bills that stretched his budget to breaking. The encounter with the Dwights began to feel like a strange dream. Until Friday afternoon, Zayn was underneath a '98 Chevy replacing a rusted muffler when Bobby, the garage owner, called out, "Zayn, someone here to see you." He slid out from under the car, wiping grease from his hands with a rag. And there she was, Harper Dwight, standing in the doorway of the garage. Different now, crisp white blouse, tailored pants, hair perfectly styled, but her eyes were the same. "Hi," she said simply. Zayn nodded, surprise making him quiet. Bobby glanced between them, curiosity evident. "Take your break, Zayn. I'll finish up the Chevy." Once they were outside in the small parking area, Zayn found his voice. "Didn't expect to see you again." Harper smiled slightly. "I'm good at surprising people." She gestured to a coffee shop across the street. "Can I buy you a cup? I won't take much of your time." The coffee shop was nearly empty at this hour. They sat by the window, steam rising from their mugs. Harper seemed nervous, fidgeting with her spoon. "I wanted to thank you," she finally said. "Properly." "You already did." "No, I didn't." She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table. "What's that?" "It's not what you think," she said quickly. "It's not money. Well, not directly." She pushed it closer. "Please, just look." Reluctantly, Zayn opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on official letterhead from Brenton Community College. "It's a scholarship," Harper explained, "for Lily, full ride when she's ready for college." Zayn stared at the paper, emotions warring within him. Pride that someone would do this for his daughter, suspicion about the motives, discomfort at accepting help. "Wait, he asked simply. Harper's expression softened. "Because education changes everything. My father taught me that, if nothing else." She hesitated. "And because you have something most people don't." "What's that?" "A code, something you live by, no matter what it costs you." She looked down at her coffee. "I admire that." Zayn was silent for a long moment, looking at the letter. Finally, he folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. "Thank you. Lily's future means everything to me." Harper seemed to relax slightly. "There's something else." Of course there was. Nothing came without strings attached. "My father's company is opening a new training facility, security systems, personnel, the works." She paused. "They need someone to run it, someone with experience." Zayn's eyes narrowed slightly. "Your father fired me, blacklisted me throughout the industry." "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I'm here, not him." "He sent you." "No, he doesn't know I'm here. This is my project, my budget, my decision." Zayn leaned back, studying her. "Why would you do this?" "Because I saw how you handled those boys, how you assessed the situation, made decisions, protected me and your daughter simultaneously." She leaned forward. "You have skills, Zayn, real skills, and they're being wasted changing oil and fixing mufflers." He shook his head. "I'm not interested in working for Dwight Technologies." "You wouldn't be. The facility falls under the Dwight Foundation. Separate entity, I run it." She met his gaze directly. "And I need someone I can trust." "You barely know me." "I know enough." She pulled out another envelope. "Just think about it. That's all I'm asking." Zayn took the second envelope, not opening it. "I'll think about it." Harper stood, leaving her coffee mostly untouched. "That's all I ask." She paused. "How's Lily?" A small smile touched Zayn's lips. "Good. She asked about you. Wondered if you liked her blanket." Harper's expression softened. "It was the softest blanket I've ever had." She hesitated. "Would it be okay if I visited her sometime? Brought her a proper thank you gift?" The request surprised him. "Sure, she'd like that." As Harper turned to leave, Zayn spoke again. "Harper, the night we met, what were you doing in that part of town?" She froze, then slowly turned back. Running away, just for a night, from expectations, from being a Dwight. A sad smile crossed her face. Didn't work out quite as planned. After she left, Zayn sat for a long time looking at the two envelopes on the table. Opportunity. A second chance. But at what cost? The second envelope contained a job offer. Director of Security Training. The salary made his breath catch. More than he'd made even in his best years with the Marines. Enough to buy a real house, start a college fund for Lily beyond the scholarship, maybe even save for retirement. But the Dwight name was at the top of the letterhead. That evening, Zayn sat on the front porch steps, watching Lily ride her bike in the driveway. The job offer weighed on his mind. Pride told him to throw it away, to keep making his own way. But was pride worth Lily's future? His phone rang. Unknown number. Holloway, he answered. Mr. Holloway, Mitchell Dwight. Zayn's grip tightened on the phone. Mr. Dwight, I'll be direct. This isn't a courtesy call, Holloway. I want to know what game you're playing with my daughter. No game, sir. First, you rescue her. Then you refuse compensation. Now she's offering you a position at her pet project. What's your angle? No angle, just considering an opportunity. An opportunity you wouldn't have if not for me. Zayn watched Lily make another wobbly circle on her bike. How do you figure that, Mr. Dwight? You reported irregularities in our financial systems. Suggested an internal investigation. Yes, and you fired me for it. Statement, not question. Yes. Another pause. You were right. Zayn hadn't expected that. What? The VP of Finance was skimming, hiding it well. But after you left, things got sloppier. We caught him last year. Embezzlement, securities fraud. Zayn closed his eyes, letting the vindication wash over him. Why are you telling me this now? Because Harper thinks I owe you. And perhaps she's right. Mitchell's voice returned to its usual clipped efficiency. The job is real. The terms are as stated. Your record has been adjusted. The decision is yours. The call ended before Zayn could respond. He sat there as dusk fell, thinking about second chances, about doing what was right versus what was easy, about the future he wanted for Lily. When his phone rang again, he expected Mitchell. Instead, it was Bobby from the garage. Zayn, bad news. The owner's selling the place. Some development company made an offer he couldn't refuse. We've got 30 days before they shut us down. The timing couldn't have been worse or more suspicious. Thanks for letting me know, Bobby. After hanging up, Zayn called the number on Harper's business card. Dwight Foundation, Harper speaking. It's Zayn. Did your father buy the garage where I work? Harper's surprise seemed genuine. What? No, at least not that I know of. The owner just got an offer? We're shutting down in 30 days. Zayn, I swear, if my father did this. Her voice hardened. I'll find out. He believed her. That was the surprising part. Don't bother. If the offer is still open, I'll take the job. It is. He could hear the smile in her voice. When can you start? 2 weeks. I owe Bobby that much. Perfect. I'll email you the details tonight. As Zayn hung up, Lily rode up to him, grinning proudly. Daddy, I didn't fall even once that time. He scooped her up, bike and all. That's my girl, always finding your balance. Perhaps it was time he found his too. The Dwight Foundation Training Center wasn't what Zayn expected. Not a gleaming corporate tower, but a converted warehouse on the outskirts of town. Practical, no nonsense. Like the work itself. On his first day, Harper met him at the entrance, ready for the tour. The facility was impressive. Cutting-edge security systems, training rooms with mats for hand-to-hand combat instruction, firing range, computer labs for cybersecurity training. Everything a modern security professional would need. Who's all this for? Zayn asked as they walked through the empty classrooms. Veterans mostly, Harper explained. Men and women coming back to civilian life with skills they don't know how to market. We provide training, certification, and job placement. Zayn stopped walking. This isn't what I expected. Harper smiled. What did you expect? Corporate security training, executive protection for your father's friends. That's part of it, she admitted, but not the heart of it. She led him to an office at the end of the hall. Simple, functional. A desk, computer, filing cabinets. His name was already on the door. Director Zayn Holloway. Why me? He asked, finally voicing the question that had been bothering him for days. Harper leaned against the doorframe. Because you know both worlds, military and civilian. You understand what these men and women are going through. There was more to it than that. He could see it in her eyes and he prompted. Harper sighed. And because I need someone who won't bend the rules, who can't be bought or intimidated, someone with a code. You barely know me, Harper. I know enough. She held his gaze. I know you stood up to my father when most men would have backed down. I know you reported financial irregularities, even though it cost you your career. Zayn's eyes narrowed. How do you know about that? I do my research. She straightened up. The first class starts Monday. 20 veterans from all branches. Some with combat experience, some without. All looking for a second chance. Like him. One more thing, Harper said, turning back at the door. My father doesn't know the full scope of this project. He thinks it's just executive training. I'd like to keep it that way for now. Zayn raised an eyebrow. You're keeping secrets from Mitchell Dwight? A small smile played at her lips. Let's just say I'm operating on a need-to-know basis. After she left, Zayn sat in his new office, running his hands over the desk. A second chance. Not just for him, but for others like him. Men and women who had served, who had skills, who deserved better than being forgotten. He picked up the phone and dialed home. Hey, Mrs. Carter, can I talk to Lily? I want to tell her about my first day. The weeks flew by. The first class of veterans took to the training with the discipline only military service could instill. Zayn found himself energized by the work in a way he hadn't felt since his early days in the Marines. These were his people. They spoke the same language, understood the same values. He came home each night to Lily with stories about the day, about the Army sergeant who could disassemble and reassemble any lock in under 2 minutes, the Navy corpsman who had ideas for improving emergency medical response protocols, the Air Force tech specialist who could hack into most security systems without breaking a sweat. Harper visited the center regularly, often staying late to review progress and plans. Sometimes she brought dinner for them both, nothing fancy, just takeout. And they would sit in his office, talking about the program, about improvements, about the veterans and their needs. You seem happy, she observed one night, picking at her lo mein. Good work will do that. It's more than that, she pressed. You're doing what you were meant to do. He couldn't argue with that. Leading, teaching, protecting. It fit him like his old uniform once had. How's Lily adjusting to the new schedule? Harper asked. She misses our afternoons together, Zayn admitted. But Mrs. Carter picks her up from school now. They bake cookies and watch those shows with the talking animals. You should bring her here sometime, Harper suggested. Let her see where you work. The idea hadn't occurred to him. Maybe I will. 2 days later, he did just that. Lily's eyes went wide at the size of the facility, at the men and women in training, at the equipment, at Harper's office with its view of the city. Is this all yours? Lily asked Harper, spinning in the office chair. Harper laughed. No, sweetheart, it belongs to my family's foundation. But your dad runs it. Lily beamed with pride. My daddy can do anything. That evening, Harper joined them for dinner, not at the center, but at their house. She brought a bottle of wine for Zayn and a stuffed dolphin for Lily. They ate spaghetti at the kitchen table while Lily chattered about school and her friends and the dolphin's name, which changed 3 times during dinner. After Lily went to bed, they sat on the front porch with glasses of wine. The night was cool but not cold. Stars sprinkled the sky above the modest neighborhood. Thank you, Zayn said quietly. For what? For this, the program, the opportunity, all of it. Harper looked at him over her wine glass. You've earned it, Zayn. More than earned it. Still, not many people get second chances like this. Maybe more should. She took a sip of wine. My father called today. Zayn tensed slightly. Oh. He wants to visit the center, see how his investment is performing. When? Next week. Tuesday. Zayn nodded slowly. We'll be ready. Harper hesitated. There's more. He's bringing potential investors, people who might want to franchise the model in other cities. That's good, isn't it? It could be. Her voice was careful. If they understand what we're really trying to do here, train veterans, give them skills, purpose, respect, not just create a corporate security mill. I'll make sure they understand, Zayn said. Harper smiled. I know you will. As she was leaving, Harper paused at her car. I almost forgot. Lily's scholarship, the paperwork is finalized. It's in a trust now. No one can touch it, not even my father. Something in the way she said it made Zayn pause. Are you expecting trouble? Harper looked up at the stars. I've learned to prepare for every contingency, Zayn. It's something you taught me. He watched her drive away, a strange unease settling in his gut, like the feeling before a mission went sideways. The quiet before the storm. Tuesday would tell. The day of Mitchell Dwight's visit dawned clear and crisp. Zayn arrived at the center early, making sure everything was in order. The training area spotless, the students' veterans in their best form, the presentation ready. Harper arrived soon after, tension evident in the set of her shoulders. He's bringing more people than I expected. Board members, potential partners. We're ready, Zayn assured her. Mitchell Dwight arrived precisely at 10 a.m., flanked by men in expensive suits. He nodded curtly to Zayn and then kissed his daughter's cheek. Harper, the place looks impressive. Thank you, Dad. We've worked hard. Mitchell surveyed the facility with a businessman's eye. Show me what you've accomplished. The tour went well. The veterans performed their demonstrations flawlessly. Cybersecurity, physical security, threat assessment, emergency response. Mitchell asked pointed questions. The men with him took notes. In the main conference room, Harper gave a presentation on the program's success, placement rates, client satisfaction, cost effectiveness, all the metrics a businessman would care about. Very impressive, Mitchell said when she finished. You've exceeded expectations. Harper smiled, but Zayn could see it didn't reach her eyes. Thank you, Dad. Now, gentlemen, Mitchell turned to his associates. What do you think? Is this a model worth replicating? The oldest of the group, a man with silver hair and hard eyes, nodded. The numbers speak for themselves. High-quality security personnel at competitive rates, low overhead, excellent PR with the veteran angle. The veteran angle, eh? Zayn repeated, something cold settling in his chest. The man glanced at him. Yes, Americans love their military. It's a strong selling point. Harper intervened smoothly. These aren't just marketing tools, Mr. Blackwood. These are skilled professionals who've served their country. Of course, Blackwood waved dismissively. That's what I meant. Mitchell cleared his throat. We're thinking of expanding. 10 more centers across the country within 2 years. Standardized training, uniform pricing, corporate clients exclusively. Corporate clients exclusively? Zayn echoed. What about the community outreach? The small business security consultations? The school safety programs? Mitchell frowned slightly. Those aren't profitable enough to scale, Holloway. We need to focus on the core business model. Harper stepped in. Dad, those programs are integral to our mission. They're why many of these veterans signed on in the first place. The mission is to make money, Harper, Mitchell said firmly. The rest is window dressing. The room went silent. The veterans who had been demonstrating their skills stood awkwardly at the edges of the room. Zayn could see the disappointment in their eyes, the familiar feeling of being used and discarded. No, Zayn said quietly. Excuse me? Mitchell turned to him, eyes narrowing. I said no, that's not the mission I signed up for. Zayn's voice was stronger now. These men and women didn't come here to be corporate rent-a-cops. They came to use their skills to make a difference, to protect people who need protecting, not just executives and their assets. Tension crackled in the air. Mitchell's face hardened. May I remind you, Holloway, that you work for me. This is my foundation, my money, my decision. Actually, Dad, Harper interjected, it's not just your decision. The foundation bylaws require board approval for any major change in mission, and as acting director, I can't support this pivot. Mitchell stared at his daughter in disbelief. We'll discuss this later, in private. The meeting ended shortly after. The investors left. Mitchell departed with a cold goodbye to Harper and nothing at all to Zayn. The veterans dispersed, murmuring among themselves. In Harper's office, Zayn finally asked the question that had been bothering him all day. Did you know this was coming? She sighed, sinking into her chair. I suspected. Dad's been talking about maximizing return on investment for weeks. I just didn't think he'd be so blatant about it. What happens now? Now we fight. She looked up at him, determination in her eyes. The board meets next week. I'll make our case. Our case? Yes, our case, unless... She hesitated. Unless you're having second thoughts. Zayn thought about the veterans, about their trust in him, about the promise this place represented. A second chance, a way to use their skills for something meaningful. No, he said firmly. No second thoughts, but you're putting yourself against your father. That's not a small thing. Harper smiled tiredly. It wouldn't be the first time. As Zayn drove home that evening, his mind was full of contingency plans, ways to protect the program. The veterans, Harper. He'd been in tough spots before, outgunned, outmanned, but never outmatched. Mitchell Dwight might have money and power, but Zayn had something more important. People who believed in him, a cause worth fighting for, and the quiet, unshakable certainty that he was doing the right thing. The battle was just beginning. The week after Mitchell Dwight's visit passed in a blur of tension. Zayn doubled down on training, pushing the veterans harder than before. If they were going to prove their worth beyond corporate security, they needed to be exceptional. The air in the facility crackled with purpose, like the charged atmosphere before a thunderstorm. Harper spent most of her time locked in her office, preparing for the board meeting. When Zayn passed by late at night, he could see her through the frosted glass, silhouette hunched over documents, phone pressed to her ear, fighting for them in her own way. They barely spoke, both too consumed by the coming battle. But each morning a fresh cup of coffee would appear on his desk, and each evening he'd leave detailed training reports on hers. Silent communion, partners in the storm. At home, Zayn tried to shield Lily from his concerns. She was too young to understand the complexities of corporate politics, too innocent to be burdened with adult worries. But children sense things. The night before the board meeting, she climbed into his lap as he sat on the porch swing, her small hand patting his stubbled cheek. "Are you sad, Daddy?" He gathered her close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "Not sad, sweetheart, just thinking hard about work." "Is it Miss Harper? Is she okay?" The question surprised him. "Why do you ask about Miss Harper?" Lily shrugged, the movement small against his chest. "You look at her pictures a lot." Zayn froze. "What pictures?" "On your phone when you think I'm sleeping." He hadn't realized she'd noticed the photos from the training center opening. Harper with the first class of veterans. Nothing personal, just documentation. At least that's what he told himself. "Miss Harper is fine," he said carefully. "She's just fighting a tough battle." Lily nodded solemnly. "Like you did in the Marines?" "Different kind of battle." He kissed the top of her head. "But important. You'll help her win. You always win." The simple faith of a child. If only the world were so straightforward. The morning of the board meeting dawned gray and threatening. Low clouds hung over the city like a premonition. Zayn dressed with extra care, the navy suit he kept for special occasions, a tie Lily had given him for Father's Boys. Armor of a different sort. Harper had asked him to attend the meeting, to speak about the program, the veterans, the mission, to put a face to what they were fighting for. He'd prepared his remarks carefully, written them out by hand, the way his high school English teacher had taught him. Nothing fancy, just the truth as he saw it. The Dwight Foundation headquarters occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming downtown tower, all glass and steel, reaching toward the sky like an accusation. Zayn had never been there before. The lobby alone was bigger than his entire house, marble floors reflecting the muted lighting like still water. The receptionist directed him to the executive elevator. His reflection in the polished doors looked out of place, a working man in a businessman's world. The boardroom was exactly as he'd imagined. Long table of dark wood, plush leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a commanding view of the city. The walls displayed the history of Dwight's success, photographs of ribbon cuttings, handshakes with politicians. Mitchell Dwight's face everywhere. Patriarch, visionary, king. Harper was already there, arranging presentations at each seat. She wore a tailored charcoal suit, hair pulled back severely. CEO armor. But when she saw him, her face softened briefly. You came. Said I would. She nodded, a quick dip of her head. Dad's bringing in the heavy artillery. Board members who owe him favors, past beneficiaries of his generosity. Stacking the deck. It's what he does. She straightened his tie slightly, the gesture oddly intimate. Just tell them what you told me. About the veterans, the mission, the impact. Will it matter? Her hand stilled. It has to. The board members arrived in groups of 2 and 3, older men mostly with the confident stride of those accustomed to wealth and influence. A few women equally polished, equally sure of their place in the world. They greeted Harper with professional courtesy, nodded to Zayn with vague curiosity. Mitchell Dwight entered last, flanked by the silver-haired man from the center tour, Blackwood, and another man Zayn didn't recognize. Mitchell took his place at the head of the table without a glance at either Zayn or Harper. Let's begin, he said, voice filling the room without effort. We have a full agenda today. The meeting progressed through routine matters, financial reports, project updates, administrative details. Zayn listened carefully, noting how Mitchell controlled the flow of conversation, steering it where he wanted it to go, like a general moving pieces on a battlefield. Finally, they reached the matter of the training center. As you all know, Mitchell began, the Veteran Security Training Initiative has been operational for 3 months now. Harper has prepared a detailed presentation on its performance metrics. But before we get to that, I want to frame the discussion. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. The initiative was conceived as an experiment, a way to provide vocational training while meeting a market need for security personnel. The experiment has been successful in demonstrating viability. Now it's time to scale up and maximize return on investment. Murmurs of agreement around the table, nods from the allies he'd brought. I propose we expand to 10 centers nationwide, focusing exclusively on corporate security training and placement. We'll standardize the curriculum, increase tuition for non-veteran students, and phase out the community service components, which, while admirable, dilute our focus and drain resources. More nods. Zayn's stomach tightened. They were buying it, the sanitized corporate version of what they'd built. Harper, Mitchell gestured to his daughter. Your presentation. She stood, calm and composed. Thank you, Father. She clicked a remote, bringing up the first slide. As you can see, the center has exceeded every metric we established at inception. She walked them through the data with precision, retention rates, job placement statistics, client satisfaction scores, all impressive, all validating the program's success. But then she shifted. What these numbers don't show, however, is the human impact. Her voice warmed. Let me tell you about James Mercer, Army Ranger. 2 tours in Afghanistan. After discharge, he bounced between minimum wage jobs, struggled with purpose. Today, he leads our cybersecurity training division and has developed protocols being adopted by 3 school districts to protect student data. She clicked to the next slide. Or Sarah Talmadge, Navy helicopter pilot. Using skills learned at our center, she created a drone surveillance system for rural fire departments that saved lives during the wildfire season. Story after story, veterans who'd found not just jobs, but purpose. Not just training, but transformation. The room grew quieter with each account. Even Mitchell's allies seemed affected. These outcomes weren't achieved by focusing narrowly on corporate security, Harper concluded. They came from allowing these veterans to apply their unique skills to real-world problems, to serve their communities again, to matter. She looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes in turn. The proposal before you today would fundamentally alter this mission. It would reduce these men and women to commodities, training products to be sold to the highest bidder. Mitchell shifted in his chair, jaw tightening. That's a rather emotional characterization of a sound business decision, Harper. This isn't just a business, Dad. Her voice remained steady. The foundation was created to make a difference, not just a profit. A foundation that cannot sustain itself makes no difference at all, Mitchell countered. Sentimentality is a luxury we cannot afford if we want to grow. Growth at the expense of mission is no growth at all, Harper replied. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. I think we've heard enough emotion. Let's focus on facts. He turned to the board. The proposed expansion would triple our reach, increase revenue by an estimated 60%, and established the Dwight Foundation as the premier provider of security training nationwide. Blackwood nodded approvingly. The numbers are compelling, Mitchell. Numbers don't tell the whole story, Harper insisted. Mr. Holloway can speak to that. He works with these veterans every day. All eyes turned to Zayn, the outsider, the unknown quantity. He cleared his throat, reached for the notes in his pocket, then decided against it. This wasn't a time for prepared remarks. This was a time for truth. I'm not a businessman, he began, his voice quiet but firm. I don't speak the language of ROIs and market penetration, but I do know something about service, about sacrifice. He looked around the table, making eye contact with each board member in turn. The men and women who come to our center have already given more than most people ever will. They've put their lives on the line for an idea bigger than themselves. And when they come home, too often they're treated as problems to be solved rather than assets to be valued. His gaze settled on Mitchell. What we've built isn't just a training center. It's a place where their service continues, where their skills matter, where they can look in the mirror and see someone of value, not just a line item on a corporate balance sheet. Mitchell's face remained impassive, but Zayn could see the tension in his jaw, the slight narrowing of his eyes, like a predator assessing a threat. Mr. Holloway's dedication is admirable, Mitchell said dismissively, but sentimentality doesn't scale. The hard reality is that the community programs Miss Dwight is so attached to are cost centers, not profit centers. Not everything that matters can be measured on a balance sheet, Mr. Dwight. Zayn kept his voice level. Some returns aren't financial. A luxury perspective, Mitchell replied coldly. One that comes from not being responsible for the financial health of an organization this size. A woman near the end of the table, older with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense haircut, cleared her throat. I'd like to hear more about these community programs before we vote. Harper jumped in, pulling up new slides. For the next 20 minutes, she detailed the work they'd done. School safety assessments, small business security consultations, cybersecurity training for seniors, practical applications of veteran skills that made a difference in real lives. When she finished, the room was quiet. Even Mitchell seemed momentarily at a loss. Thank you, Miss Dwight, Mr. Holloway, the woman said. I believe we have enough information to proceed to a vote. Mitchell quickly regained control. Yes, let's move forward. The proposal before the board is to approve the expansion plan as outlined, focusing our resources on corporate security training and phasing out the community components. Hands began to raise. Mitchell's allies first, then others, more slowly. Zayn's heart sank as the count grew. 6, 7, 8. Those opposed? The woman who had asked for more information raised her hand immediately. 2 others followed. 3 votes against. Abstentions? 2 more hands. Not enough to change the outcome. The motion carries 8-3 with 2 abstentions. Mitchell's voice was neutral, but his eyes glinted with triumph. We'll begin implementation immediately. Harper's face remained professionally composed, but Zayn could see the slight tremor in her hands as she gathered her materials. The defeat hit him like a physical blow. All that work, all those promises to the veterans, gone in a boardroom vote. As the meeting adjourned, board members filed out, some stopping to shake Mitchell's hand, others nodding to Harper with what might have been sympathy. Zayn stood apart, an observer to the corporate ritual. Mitchell approached them last, straightening his already perfect tie. The board has spoken. Harper, I expect you to implement their decision with the same efficiency you've shown in everything else. Her spine stiffened. And if I refuse? Mitchell's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then I'll find someone who won't. This is business, not personal. It's always been personal with you, Dad. He turned to Zayn. Mr. Holloway, you have a choice to make. Adapt to the new direction or seek employment elsewhere. I'll need your decision by the end of the week. With that, he strode from the room, leaving them alone in the aftermath of defeat. Harper's professional facade cracked the moment the door closed. She sank into a chair, hands pressed flat against the polished table. I'm sorry, Zayn, I thought I could convince them. He moved to the windows, looking out at the city spread below them, gray skies to match their mood. You did everything you could. It wasn't enough. Her voice was hollow. Ever is with him. Zayn turned back to her. What now? Now, she took a deep breath, gathering herself. Now we figure out how to save what matters. The drive back to the training center was silent, each lost in their own thoughts. Rain had started falling, streaking the windows of Harper's sleek car, turning the world outside into a blurred impression of itself. The veterans were waiting for them. Word traveled fast. They gathered in the main training room, faces expectant, hopeful. Zayn felt the weight of their trust like a physical burden. "What's the verdict, boss?" James Mercer asked, voicing what they all wanted to know. Zayn looked at Harper. Her nod was almost imperceptible. This was his to handle. "The board voted to change direction," he said simply. No point sugarcoating it. These men and women had faced harder truths. They want to focus exclusively on corporate security training, phase out the community programs. The silence was deafening. Then came the questions, overlapping, urgent. What about the school safety initiative, the senior cyber training, my small business consultation program? Zayn held up a hand. "Nothing changes immediately. We have time to figure this out." "Figure what out?" Sarah Talmadge asked, arms crossed over her chest. "Sounds like the decision's been made." "Some decisions can be unmade," Harper spoke up, "or worked around." The veterans looked at her with varying degrees of skepticism. She was still a Dwight to them, part of the power structure that had just let them down. "I know what you're thinking," she continued, "that I'm just like my father, that when push came to shove, I couldn't stand up to him." No one's saying that, ma'am," James said diplomatically. "But you're thinking it." She stepped forward, facing them directly. "You have every right to be angry, to feel betrayed. But I'm asking you to trust me a little longer. To trust Zayn. We're not giving up." They looked to Zayn, waiting for his confirmation, his endorsement of her words. "We built something valuable here," he said quietly. "Something worth fighting for. I'm not walking away from that, or from any of you." The tension in the room eased slightly. Not gone, but less acute. "What's the play then?" James asked. Zayn glanced at Harper. "We're working on it. For now, we continue as if nothing's changed. Keep the training on track. Keep the community commitments." "And if the board asks why we're not implementing their decision?" Sarah pressed. "Implementation takes time," Harper replied, a hint of her father's steel in her voice. "Assessments must be conducted, transition plans developed, due diligence performed, corporate speak, delay tactics. But it might buy them the time they needed." "Meanwhile," Zayn added, "document everything, every success story, every life changed, every community impact. We need ammunition." The veterans nodded, purpose returning to their expressions. They understood battle, understood regrouping after a setback. This was just another mission. As they dispersed, Harper touched Zayn's arm lightly. "My office. We need to talk." Her office felt different now, less like a corporate space and more like a war room. Papers spread across every surface, computer screens showing financial projections, organizational charts, legal documents. "You've been planning for this," Zayn realized. Harper nodded, closing the door behind them. "I know my father. Always have a contingency plan when dealing with Mitchell Dwight." "And what kind of contingency?" She gestured for him to sit, then perched on the edge of her desk. "The Foundation's bylaws include a provision for spinning off successful initiatives as separate entities under certain conditions." Zayn leaned forward. "What conditions?" "Demonstrated independence, secure funding, proven leadership." She met his eyes. "We have two of the three. The funding's the problem. Yes, we'd need enough to operate independently for at least 2 years. Prove the model is sustainable." Zayn whistled softly. "That's a big number." "3 million minimum," she said it matter-of-factly, as if discussing lunch options. "Might as well be 30 million, Zayn replied, the enormity of the task sinking in. "No bank will loan that kind of money without collateral, and I'm guessing the Foundation won't co-sign." Harper's lips curved in a small, tight smile. "No, but I have other resources." "Your personal money?" She nodded. "Some of it. Not all 3 million, but enough to show commitment. The rest would have to come from outside investors." Zayn sat back, studying her. "Why would you do that? Put your own money at risk?" "Because I believe in what we're doing." She paused, looking down at her hands. And because I need to prove something to myself. What's that? She met his gaze directly. That I'm not my father, that I can build something that matters, not just something that makes money. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. Zayn understood then that her stake in this fight was as personal as his own, different, but no less profound. So what's our next move? He asked. We need to find investors who share our vision, people with money who care about veterans, community impact, social good. Not exactly my social circle. Her smile turned genuine. Mine either, despite what my father thinks. But I know where to look. She handed him a list of names, companies, foundations, high net worth individuals known for social impact investing. We have 2 weeks to put together a proposal, she continued. Show them what we've built, what we could build if we were independent. And if your father finds out? Her expression hardened. He will, and he'll do everything he can to stop us. Why, if we're not using foundation money, why would he care? Because it's not really about the money for him. It's about control. She looked out the window, rain still falling steadily. Always has been. Zayn stood, feeling the need to move. This is a lot to risk. Your relationship with your father, your position at the foundation, your own money. Some things are worth the risk. Her eyes found his. Don't you think? The question felt weighted with meaning beyond the immediate context. Zayn chose his words carefully. Yes, but you should be sure. Once we start this, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything. Her voice was steady, but her fingers gripped the edge of the desk until the knuckles whitened. Are you with me? Zayn thought about the veterans, about Lily's future, about second chances and fighting for what matters. All the way. The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. By day, they maintained the center's operations, keeping up appearances. By night, they worked on their independence plan, financial projections, organizational structures, marketing strategies. Everything they would need to convince investors they were a worthy risk. Zayn learned more about business in those 2 weeks than in his entire life before. Harper was a patient teacher, translating corporate jargon into plain language, explaining concepts until they made sense to him. In return, he brought the veteran perspective, the practical realities of the work they did, the impact they could have if given the chance. They worked late into the night, often the only ones left in the building, sometimes ordering takeout, spreading it across Harper's desk as they fine-tuned presentations, sometimes just talking about their lives, their hopes, the paths that had brought them to this moment. He learned that she'd studied social entrepreneurship against her father's wishes, that she'd spent a gap year working with refugee resettlement programs, that the Foundation's Veteran Initiative had been her idea from the start, though Mitchell had taken credit once it showed promise. She learned about his childhood in a small Midwest town, his decision to join the Marines after high school instead of taking the factory job his father had lined up, the pride and pain of military service, meeting Sarah during a brief stateside assignment, falling in love, building a life between deployments. Do you ever regret it? She asked one night, the hour too late for anything but honesty. Joining up? Considering what it cost you? Zayn considered the question, looking out at the city lights through the rain-streaked windows. No, even knowing how it would end, I'd do it again. Why? Because it made me who I am. He turned back to her. The good and the bad, it's all part of the same journey. She nodded slowly. I understand that more than you might think. Their eyes held for a moment too long. Zayn looked away first, reaching for a financial projection to review. They were colleagues, partners in this fight. Nothing more. At least that's what he told himself. The morning of their first investor pitch, Zayn's phone rang before dawn. He fumbled for it in the darkness, mindful not to wake Lily. Holloway, he answered, voice rough with sleep. It's Harper, urgent. We have a problem. He sat up instantly, alert. What happened? My father found out about our plans. Her voice was tight with anger. He's freezing the center's accounts, effective immediately. Can he do that? Legally, maybe not, but he controls the bank's board, so yes, practically speaking, he can. Zayn swung his legs over the side of the bed, mind racing. What about the staff, the veterans? That's why I'm calling. We need to get to the center before they do. Warn them. Figure out next steps. I'll meet you there in 30 minutes. After arranging for Mrs. Carter to take Lily to school, Zayn drove through the pre-dawn darkness, rain still falling steadily from a sky that hadn't cleared in days. The streets were nearly empty, the occasional set of headlights reflecting off wet pavement like distant stars. Harper was already at the center when he arrived, pacing the entrance hall like a caged tiger. Her hair was pulled back hastily, clothes more casual than her usual business attire. The strain of the past week showed in the shadows beneath her eyes. "How bad is it?" he asked without preamble. "Bad." She handed him a letter. The letter was on Dwight Foundation letterhead, formal language that boiled down to a simple message. The Veteran Security Training Initiative was being suspended pending review of financial irregularities. All staff were placed on administrative leave. The facility would be closed until further notice. Financial irregularities? Zayn looked up, anger building. That's his play. "It's just a pretext," Harper said bitterly. "A way to shut us down without admitting the real reason, which is that I defied him, that we're trying to go independent." She resumed pacing. "He's making an example of me, showing what happens to people who cross Mitchell Dwight." Zayn read the letter again, focusing on the details. "It says administrative leave is effective today. The veterans will be showing up for training in a couple hours. I know, we need to tell them, and we need a new plan." They called an emergency meeting, catching the veterans and staff as they arrived. The mood was somber as Harper explained the situation. The frozen accounts, the administrative leave, the uncertain future. "So that's it?" Sarah Talmadge asked, voice sharp with disappointment. "Game over?" Boom, bam. "No," Zayn said firmly. "This is a setback, not the end." "Easy for you to say," one of the newer veterans muttered. "You'll find another job. Some of us don't have that luxury." The accusation stung, but Zayn understood the fear behind it. "I'm not going anywhere, and neither is this program, if I have anything to say about it." Harper stepped forward. "We've been working on a contingency plan, a way to make the program independent of the foundation." "What kind of plan?" James Mercer asked. "We're pitching to impact investors this afternoon," she explained. "People who fund social enterprises. If they back us, we can establish the program as a separate entity." "And if they don't?" Sarah pressed. Harper and Zayn exchanged glances. They hadn't discussed this part. "Then I'll fund it myself," Harper said, the decision made in that moment. "At least for the short term, enough to keep everyone paid while we find a permanent solution." Murmurs rippled through the group. Surprise, skepticism, hope. "Why would you do that?" one of the veterans asked. "It's your father's company, your family's money." "Because this matters more than money," she replied simply. "What we're doing here matters." The room fell silent, the sincerity of her words hanging in the air. Then James stepped forward. "What do you need from us?" Harper's relief was visible. "Right now, we need you to sit tight. Don't sign anything the foundation sends you. Don't turn in equipment or access cards. Just wait for our signal." "We're supposed to just trust you?" the skeptical veteran asked. "No," Zayn interjected. "Trust me. I've never steered you wrong. I'm not starting now." The veterans looked at each other, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, James nodded. "All right, boss, we're with you for now." As the group dispersed, Zayn turned to Harper. "Did you mean that, about funding it yourself?" "Every word." Her eyes were steady, determined. "I have trust fund money my father can't touch. Not enough for the long term, but enough to keep everyone afloat for a few months." "That's a big commitment." "These people are worth it." She checked her watch. "We need to get ready for the investor pitch. It's even more important now." The investor meeting was scheduled at a downtown hotel conference room, neutral territory. 3 potential backers had agreed to hear them out. A tech millionaire with a foundation focused on education, a venture capitalist known for social impact investments, and the representative of a family office that supported veteran causes. Despite the circumstances, Harper was flawless in her presentation, poised, articulate, passionate about the mission. Zayn followed with the veteran perspective. Concrete examples of lives changed, communities served. They made a good team, her polish complementing his authenticity. The questions were tough but fair. Financial viability, scaling potential, competitive advantage. Harper handled the business inquiries, Zayn the operational ones, back and forth like a well-rehearsed dance. "Let me make sure I understand," the venture capitalist said near the end. You're asking us to fund a program currently under financial review by its parent foundation? A program whose accounts have been frozen? The review is a pretext, Harper replied candidly. My father is using it to block our independence effort. That doesn't answer my question, Miss Dwight. His tone was cool, assessing. Why would we invest in an entity with such obvious governance risks? Because the mission transcends the structure, she countered. The work these veterans are doing matters. The impact is real and measurable. Impact doesn't pay the bills, the tech millionaire observed, or satisfy investors. Zayn leaned forward, patience wearing thin. With respect, this isn't just about return on investment. It's about giving veterans a second chance, about using their skills to make communities safer. A worthy goal, the family office representative acknowledged. But business realities can't be ignored, particularly when there's potential legal exposure. The meeting ended with polite handshakes and promises to consider the proposal, but Zayn could read the room. They weren't convinced. Too much risk, too much drama, too much Mitchell Dwight. In the elevator down to the lobby, Harper maintained her professional composure. But once they reached the privacy of her car, she slumped against the steering wheel. They're not going to fund us, she said, voice hollow. I could see it in their faces. Zayn had seen it too. We'll find others. In time, before the veterans find other jobs, before my father dismantles everything we've built. She shook her head. He's winning, Zayn, like he always does. The defeat in her voice sparked something in him. Anger, determination, refusal to accept failure. No, he only wins if we give up. She looked at him, really looked, for the first time since the morning's chaos began. What's the alternative? We fight on our terms, not his. How? Zayn thought for a moment, the beginnings of a plan forming. Your father's power comes from his reputation, his public image. What if we challenge that? Harper straightened, interest kindling in her eyes. Go on. The veterans, their stories, the community impact. What if we took it public? Showed the world what's really at stake when Mitchell Dwight talks about financial irregularities and business realities? You're talking about a public relations battle. A small smile curved her lips. Against the master of corporate PR. Sometimes David beats Goliath. Zayn shrugged, especially when David has truth on his side. She considered it, tapping her fingers against the steering wheel. It's risky. My father won't just roll over. He'll fight back, hard. I'm counting on it. He'll come after you personally, dig up whatever he can find. Let him try. Zayn's voice was steady. I've got nothing to hide. Harper studied him, weighing his resolve against the risks. All right, let's do it. But we need to be smart about this, strategic. Always am. She started the car, decision made. We'll need help, media contacts, social media expertise, legal counsel. I know someone who might help with the legal side, Zayn offered. Former Marine JAG officer, works pro bono for veterans now. Perfect. I have media contacts from my foundation work. Her energy was returning, defeat transforming into determination. If we're going to do this, we go all in. No half measures. Wouldn't have it any other way. As they drove back to the center, the rain finally began to ease, patches of blue appearing between the clouds. A break in the storm, perhaps a sign. The battle was just beginning. The next morning, the story broke. Veterans programs shut down by corporate politics, read the headline in the city's largest newspaper. The article detailed the center's mission, the veteran stories, the community impact, and the abrupt closure. It stopped short of directly accusing Mitchell Dwight of personal vindictiveness, but the implication was clear. By noon, local TV stations had picked up the story. Veterans from the program gave interviews, speaking passionately about what the training had meant to them. Community partners testified to the value of the security consultations, the school safety programs. The narrative was compelling. Dedicated veterans versus corporate callousness. Zayn's phone rang constantly, reporters seeking comments, veterans offering support, community members asking how they could help. Harper coordinated from her apartment, having been officially barred from foundation offices. How's it playing? Zayn asked when they finally connected late in the day. Better than we could have hoped, Harper replied, voice tight with controlled excitement. Social media is overwhelming. Hashtag Save Veteran Training is trending locally. 3 more news outlets want interviews tomorrow. Your father? Radio silence so far, but his PR team issued a statement about unfortunate but necessary administrative actions and commitment to veteran welfare. Corporates speak for we're scrambling. Exactly. He could hear the smile in her voice. This might actually work, Zayn. One day at a time, we've got their attention. Now we need to keep the pressure on. The pressure came from unexpected quarters. Veterans organizations issued statements of support. Local politicians, sensing a popular cause, began asking questions. Small businesses that had benefited from the center's security consultations organized a petition drive. By the third day, Mitchell Dwight could no longer maintain his silence. He called a press conference at Foundation headquarters, the same building where the board had voted to change the center's direction. Zayn and Harper watched it together on her laptop, sitting side by side on her apartment sofa. Mitchell was flawless as always, tailored suit, perfect hair, confident demeanor. But Zayn, who had faced enough enemies to recognize the signs, could see the tension beneath the polished exterior. The slightly too tight smile, the overly precise gestures. The foundation remains deeply committed to veteran welfare, Mitchell began, voice resonant with practiced sincerity. The temporary suspension of the training center's operations is purely administrative, a routine review that has been mischaracterized by individuals with incomplete information. That's us, Harper murmured. The individuals with incomplete information. Mitchell continued, outlining the foundation's long history of charitable work, its fiduciary responsibility to donors, its commitment to transparency and good governance. All true, but none of it addressing the real issue. Then came the pivot Zayn had been expecting. It's unfortunate that certain parties have chosen to publicize internal foundation matters, Mitchell said, expression shifting to regretful concern, particularly when those parties have personal agendas that may not align with the foundation's mission. Here it comes, Zayn said quietly. My daughter Harper has been a valued member of the foundation team, Mitchell continued, but her personal relationship with the center's director, Mr. Zayn Holloway, has clouded her professional judgment. The board's decision to refocus the center's mission was made with full information and proper governance. The subsequent attempt to undermine that decision through public pressure is both inappropriate and potentially harmful to the veterans these individuals claim to support. Harper's intake of breath was sharp. Personal relationship? Zayn's jaw tightened. The insinuation was clear, that their professional partnership was something more, something that compromised Harper's judgment. A classic misdirection tactic. Attack the messenger to discredit the message. A reporter called out from the audience, Mr. Dwight, are you suggesting your daughter is romantically involved with Mr. Holloway? Mitchell's smile was thin. I'm suggesting that personal connections can sometimes influence professional decisions. The nature of that connection is not for me to characterize. Another reporter, does the foundation dispute the community impact of the center's programs as reported by local organizations? The foundation acknowledges the center's positive work, Mitchell replied smoothly. Our concern is sustainability and scalability. Emotional attachments to specific programs cannot override strategic considerations. Question after question, Mitchell deflecting, reframing, occasionally conceding minor points while holding firm on the central issue, the foundation's right to direct its resources as it saw fit. When it was over, Harper closed the laptop with more force than necessary. Unbelievable. He's trying to dismiss everything we've built as some sort of romantic delusion. Zayn stood, needing to move. The small apartment suddenly felt confining. It's a tactic. Distract from the real issue. Make it personal instead of principled. It's working. She ran a hand through her hair in frustration. The story is already shifting. I'm getting texts from reporters asking about our relationship. What do we do? Harper paced the length of the living room, thinking aloud. We stay focused on the mission, the veterans, the community impact. We don't engage with the personal allegations. Will that be enough? She stopped, turning to face him. I don't know. My father's very good at what he does. Zayn moved to the window, looking out at the city skyline. The storm had passed, leaving clear skies and longer shadows as autumn deepened. But the clarity brought no answers. Maybe we're fighting the wrong battle, he said finally. What do you mean? Your father controls the foundation, the board, the money. He turned back to her. We can't win on his terms. So we changed the terms. Exactly. The idea that had been forming in his mind began to take shape. What if instead of fighting to save the center as it is, we build something new? Something he doesn't control? Harper's eyes widened slightly as she grasped his meaning. Start from scratch? Not completely. We have the most important parts already. The veterans, the expertise, the community connections. But no facility, no equipment, no funding. Yet. Zayn held her gaze. You said you had trust fund money, enough to keep things going for a while. For salaries, yes, not for a whole new operation. It's a start, and with the publicity we've generated, maybe those investors will reconsider. Or new ones will step up. Harper sat on the edge of the sofa, considering the idea. It's a huge risk, Zayn, for both of us, for all the veterans. Bigger risk to do nothing, to let your father win. She looked up at him, a slow smile spreading across her face. You don't give up easily, do you? Not in my nature. Mine either. She stood. Decision made. All right, let's build something new. Something my father can't touch. The energy between them shifted, possibility replacing defeat. They spent the rest of the evening outlining the plan, what they needed, who they could approach, how to transition without losing momentum. It was late when Zayn finally headed home. The night air crisp and clean after days of rain, stars visible above the city lights. As he drove, his phone rang. Unknown number. Holloway, he answered. Mr. Holloway, Mitchell Dwight. Zayn's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Mr. Dwight, I'll be direct. This public campaign stops now. Or what? Or I'll be forced to take more decisive action. Mitchell's voice was cold, controlled. Actions that might impact more than just the training center. Zayn pulled to the side of the road, giving the conversation his full attention. Are you threatening me? I'm stating facts. Your daughter's scholarship, your rental home, your future employability. All can be affected by how this situation resolves. The threat hung in the air between them, explicit enough to understand, vague enough to deny. You'd go after a 6-year-old girl to win a PR battle? Zayn kept his voice steady despite the anger building inside him. I protect what's mine, Mr. Holloway. The foundation, its reputation, my daughter's future. A pause. Something I believe you understand. Leave Lily out of this. That depends entirely on you. Mitchell's tone shifted, became almost conversational. This doesn't have to be adversarial. I'm prepared to be generous. A year's salary as severance, positive references, perhaps even funding for that college scholarship Harper arranged, all in exchange for your public statement that the center's closure was a mutual decision based on strategic differences. The offer was tempting, security for Lily, financial breathing room, a clean break. But it would mean betraying the veterans, betraying Harper, betraying himself. Not interested. Mitchell sighed, the sound distorted through the phone. I thought you might be more practical, more concerned with your daughter's welfare. I am concerned with her welfare, Zayn replied evenly. That's why I'm teaching her about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Noble sentiment, poor parenting. Mitchell's voice hardened again. Last chance, Holloway, end this campaign. Walk away or deal with the consequences. I've dealt with worse than you, Mr. Dwight. We'll see. The call ended. Zayn sat in the parked car, breathing deeply, calming the rage that threatened to overwhelm him. Mitchell's threat was real. He had the power, the resources, the ruthlessness to follow through. But Zayn had faced death in distant deserts, had rebuilt his life after losing Sarah, had raised Lily alone in a world that often seemed designed to break people like him. He wouldn't break now. When he got home, he found Lily already asleep, Mrs. Carter dozing in the armchair beside her bed. The older woman stirred as he entered. She waited up as long as she could, Mrs. Carter whispered, rising stiffly. Said she needed to tell you something important. Thanks for staying, Zayn replied, walking her to the door. Sorry it got so late. After Mrs. Carter left, Zayn returned to Lily's room, sitting gently on the edge of her small bed. In sleep, she looked so much like Sarah. The same curve of cheek, the same delicate eyelashes. His heart swelled with a fierce, protective love. "I'll keep you safe," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Whatever it takes." Mitchell Dwight had made a critical error in threatening Lily. He'd given Zayn something beyond principle to fight for. Something primal. A father protecting his child. The battle had just become personal. Morning light filtered through the blinds, painting stripes across Lily's bedroom floor. Zayn sat at the small kitchen table, coffee cooling before him, mind racing with contingency plans. Mitchell's threat hung in the air like a storm cloud, invisible but no less real for it. His phone buzzed. "Harper, I need to see you," she said without preamble. "Something's happened." They met at a small park near Lily's school, neutral ground. Harper was already there when he arrived, pacing beneath an ancient oak tree, fallen leaves crunching beneath her boots. When she saw him, relief washed across her face. "I was worried you wouldn't come," she said as he approached. "Why wouldn't I?" She handed him her tablet. On the screen was an email from Mitchell, sent to Harper's personal account. Zayn read it quickly, jaw tightening with each line. It was an ultimatum. End the public campaign against the foundation. Return to her position. Cut all ties with Zayn and the veterans. In exchange, Mitchell would ensure a suitable transition for the veterans and retract any mischaracterizations about Harper's judgment. The alternative was spelled out with cold precision. Complete disinheritance. Removal from the foundation. Public disclosure of unspecified, personal matters that would damage her professional credibility beyond repair. "He sent this last night," Harper said, hugging herself against the morning chill. "Right after he called you, I'm guessing." Zayn handed the tablet back. "He threatened Lily's scholarship, my home, my future employment." Harper's eyes widened. "He's going nuclear. He's desperate, which means we're winning. Or he's just getting started." She ran a hand through her hair, autumn sunlight catching the strands like copper wire. "Zayn, he doesn't make empty threats. If he says he'll destroy us, he'll try. Let him try." A jogger passed by, breath fogging in the cool air. Birds called from the oak's branches. Normal life continuing while theirs hung in the balance. "I've been thinking," Harper said after a moment, "about what you said last night, building something new. And I made some calls this morning, tested the waters." A small smile curved her lips. "There's interest. Real interest." Hope stirred in Zayn's chest. "What kind of interest?" "Two of the investors from our pitch. After my father's press conference, they did some digging, talked to community partners, veterans. They're considering funding a new entity." Considering isn't committing. It's a start. She stepped closer, eyes intent on his. "But they need to know we're serious, that we're all in, both of us." The implication was clear. No turning back, no separate peace with Mitchell. All or nothing. "I'm all in," Zayn said without hesitation. "Always was." Relief softened her features. "There's more. The veterans have been talking, organizing. They're meeting today to discuss next steps. Without us? Their choice. They need to decide for themselves if this fight is worth it." He nodded, understanding. "When will we know?" "James is calling me this afternoon, said they'd take a vote." The rustle of leaves overhead mimicked the churning of Zayn's thoughts. So many moving parts. So many lives at stake. "We should be there," he said suddenly. "At the meeting, not to pressure them, but to answer questions, make sure they have all the facts." Harper checked her watch. "They're meeting at Mercer's place in an hour." "Then let's go." As they turned to leave, Harper's phone chimed with an incoming text. She read it, face paling. "What now?" Zayn asked. "My father's called another press conference. In 2 hours. Content unknown, but my sources say he's bringing special guests." They exchanged worried glances. Mitchell was accelerating his counterattack. "One battle at a time," Zayn said firmly. "The veterans first, then we deal with whatever your father throws at us." James Mercer's apartment was crowded with familiar faces. Nearly all the veterans from the center packed into the modest living room. Conversations hushed as Zayn and Harper entered, eyes assessed, measured, judged. "Thanks for coming," James said, closing the door behind them. "We weren't sure you would." "Wouldn't miss it," Zayn replied, scanning the room. Some faces were friendly, others guarded, all waiting to see which way the wind would blow. Sarah Talmadge stood by the window, arms crossed. We've been talking about next steps, trying to figure out where we go from here. And, Harper asked, the single word carrying the weight of everything at stake. That depends on you two, James answered, on what you're planning, what you're asking us to risk. Zayn stepped forward. We're not asking you to risk anything. Each of you needs to decide what's right for you, your families, your futures. Pretty words, said one of the newer veterans, Rodriguez, former Army Ranger. But the reality is that Mitchell Dwight can blackball any of us from decent security work in this city. Some of us have mortgages, kids in college, medical bills. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Valid concerns, real fears. That's why we're here, Harper said, stepping beside Zayn, to lay out options, answer questions, then let you decide. For the next 30 minutes, they outlined the situation honestly. The threats, the potential investors, the vision for something new. No sugarcoating, no false promises, just the unvarnished truth and a hope for something better. When they finished, the room was quiet. Then Rodriguez spoke again. So we'd be starting from scratch. No facility, no equipment, no contracts. Not completely from scratch, Harper replied. We have expertise, connections, potential funding, and a fight with one of the most powerful men in the city, Sarah added. Yes, Zayn acknowledged that too. James cleared his throat. Before we vote, I think we should all be clear on what we're voting for. This isn't just about moms, it's about the mission, the community work, the chance to use our skills for something that matters. Nods around the room, understanding. It's also about loyalty, James continued, looking directly at Zayn and Harper, to people who've gone to bat for us, who've put their own necks on the line. More nods, the atmosphere shifting subtly. So the question is, do we walk away, find other moms, or do we stand together and build something new, something better? Zayn and Harper stepped outside while the vote took place. The hallway was narrow, forcing them to stand close, close enough that Zayn could smell Harper's perfume, something subtle and expensive, that had become familiar over their weeks of working together. Whatever they decide, she said quietly, I want you to know I don't regret any of it. Neither do I. Her eyes met his, searching. Even with the threats, your daughter's future at stake? Especially then. Zayn's voice was firm. Lily's watching, learning. I want her to see that some things are worth fighting for. That standing up for what's right matters, even when it's hard. Something shifted in Harper's expression. Respect deepening into something warmer. You're a good father, Zayn Holloway. Trying to be. The door opened before she could respond. James gestured them back inside. The veterans had formed a loose semicircle facing the door, faces somber but resolved. We've decided, James announced. Unanimous vote. Zayn's heart thumped against his ribs. Harper's hand found his, squeezed briefly, then released. We're in, James continued. All of us. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Relief washed through Zayn, so powerful it nearly made his knees buckle. Harper's smile was brilliant, transformative. Thank you, she said, voice thick with emotion. You won't regret this. Better not, Rodriguez said, but his expression had softened. My wife already thinks I'm crazy. Laughter broke the tension. Then Sarah stepped forward, holding up her phone. Mitchell Dwight's press conference is starting. We should watch. They gathered around James's small television, tuning to the local news channel. Mitchell stood at the same podium as before, but this time he wasn't alone. Beside him stood three men in business suits, older, distinguished, with the confident bearing of those accustomed to power. That's the Foundation's lead counsel. Harper identified the first man. The second is the head of security for Dwight Technologies. She frowned. The third, I don't recognize him. Mitchell began speaking, his voice measured and grave. Recent events have forced me to address a difficult situation involving the Foundation's Veteran Security Training Initiative. While we remain committed to supporting veteran welfare, evidence has emerged of serious ethical and potential legal violations within the program. Tension rippled through the room. Harper's face hardened into a mask. Mitchell gestured to the third man. This is Special Agent Decker from the Financial Crimes Division. He's here today because the Foundation has uncovered evidence suggesting misappropriation of funds within the training center. The agent stepped forward. We're in the preliminary stages of an investigation. I cannot comment on specifics at this time. However, I can confirm that we're looking into allegations of financial misconduct involving the center's operations. This is bullshit, James growled. Complete fabrication. Mitchell returned to the microphone. In light of these developments, the Foundation has made the difficult decision to permanently close the training center and cooperate fully with investigators. We are deeply disappointed that a program with such potential has been compromised in this way. A reporter called out, "Mr. Dwight, are you suggesting that your daughter was involved in financial misconduct?" Mitchell's expression shifted to practiced concern. Harper is a passionate advocate for veterans. Perhaps that passion clouded her oversight responsibilities. I believe she was misled by those she trusted. The implication hung in the air, unspoken but clear. Mitchell was pointing the finger at Zayn. Harper's phone rang, breaking the stunned silence in James' apartment. She stepped away to answer it, face tight with anger. "He's trying to scare off our investors," Zayn said to the veterans. "Make them think there's financial impropriety." "Is there any truth to it?" Rodriguez asked bluntly. "None." Zayn met his gaze directly. "Every dollar is accounted for. Every expense documented. He's manufacturing a scandal to destroy what we built." Harper returned, face pale but composed. "That was one of our potential investors. They're getting cold feet. Want to pause discussions until the investigation is resolved." "Which could take months," Zayn said, "if there even is a real investigation." "Oh, it's real," Harper replied grimly. "My father wouldn't bluff about involving federal authorities. He's probably filed a formal complaint, just enough to trigger a preliminary inquiry. Based on what evidence? Doesn't matter. The investigation itself is the weapon. Even if we're cleared, eventually the damage is done." She looked around at the veterans. "I'm sorry. He's fighting dirtier than I expected." Sarah stepped forward. "So we fight back dirtier." All eyes turned to her. Sarah had been one of the quieter veterans, less outspoken than James or Rodriguez. Seeing her angry was like watching a calm sea suddenly churn. "How?" James asked. "We go public, all of us, with everything we know about the center, the finances, the community impact. We show there's nothing to hide." "That's not fighting dirty," Harper said. "That's just transparency." "Then we add the personal angle," Sarah continued. "How Mitchell Dwight threatened his own daughter, threatened Zayn's child, how he's willing to destroy veterans' lives to maintain control." The room fell silent, considering the implications. "It would be all-out war," Harper said quietly. "Personal, public, ugly." "Isn't it already?" Sarah countered. Zayn thought about Lily, about Mitchell's threats, about the veterans who had just voted to stand with them, risking their own futures. "There's another way," he said slowly. "Something that might work better than a public mud fight." They all looked at him expectantly. "Your father's power comes from his reputation," he said to Harper, "his public image as a philanthropist, a community leader, a man of integrity." "Yes. What if we challenge that directly? Not with accusations, but with a choice. A public choice that forces him to reveal who he really is." Harper's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "What kind of choice?" "A challenge. In his arena. On his terms." Zayn's mind raced ahead, the plan forming as he spoke. "The Foundation's annual gala. It's next week, right?" "Yes, the biggest fundraising event of the year." Understanding dawned on Harper's face. "You want to confront him there?" "Not confront, challenge. Offer an alternative that puts his true priorities on display." The veterans leaned in as Zayn outlined his plan, simple but audacious. A public gambit that would force Mitchell to choose between his image and his control. When he finished, the room was quiet, each person weighing the risks against the potential reward. "It could work," Harper said finally, "if we can pull it together in time. If he doesn't shut us down first," James added. "He'll try," Zayn acknowledged. But he can't control all of us. Not if we move fast, stay nimble." Rodriguez grinned suddenly. "Like guerrilla warfare, hit and move, yeah, exactly." Zayn looked around the room. "Can I count on all of you?" One by one they nodded, committed, united. A band of veterans with nothing to lose and everything to fight for. Then let's get to work. The next week passed in a blur of activity. Each veteran had assignments, contacts to make, pieces to put in place. They operated in small groups, communicating through encrypted channels, staying beneath Mitchell's radar that as much as possible. Harper worked her own connections, former colleagues, sympathetic foundation staff, wealthy donors who might be persuaded to their cause. Zayn focused on the logistics, the timing, the contingency plans if things went sideways. Mitchell wasn't idle. The investigation into financial misconduct received prominent coverage in local media. Former Foundation employees suddenly emerged with vague concerns about the training center's operations. Nothing specific, nothing actionable, but enough to create a cloud of suspicion. Zayn's landlord sent a notice of non-renewal on his lease. The garage where he'd worked before the center called to rescind a job offer they'd made when the center first closed. Small pressures, cumulative weights designed to crush resistance. Through it all, Zayn maintained his routine with Lily. Morning breakfast, school drop-off, evening homework, bedtime stories, creating normalcy in the eye of the storm. But she sensed the tension, the late-night phone calls, the visitors coming and going from their small house. "Are we in trouble, Daddy?" she asked one night as he tucked her in. "No, sweetheart." He smoothed her hair back from her forehead. "Just working on something important with Miss Harper." "And the veterans from the center?" "Yes." Lily was quiet for a moment, considering this. "Is the bad man still trying to stop you?" Zayn paused, surprised. "What bad man?" "The one who made Miss Harper sad. Her daddy." "Children missed nothing." "Yes, he's still trying to stop us." "Why? How to explain adult complexities to a 6-year-old? Sometimes grown-ups get so focused on being in charge that they forget what really matters. Like being kind? Exactly like that." Lily nodded, satisfied with the explanation. "You'll win, Daddy. You and Miss Harper. 'Cause you're the good guys." If only the world were that simple. "We're trying our best," he said, kissing her forehead. "Sleep tight, kiddo." Later that night, Harper came by to finalize details for the gala. They sat at the kitchen table, speaking in low voices to avoid waking Lily, cups of coffee growing cold between them. "The RSVPs are stronger than I expected," Harper said, reviewing the list on her tablet. "Nearly 70 confirmed. Key foundation donors, media, even 2 city council members. Your father knows we're planning something. He suspects. Security will be tight." She looked up at him. "Are you sure about this, Zayn? Once we do this, there's no going back. For either of us." "I'm sure." His voice was steady. "You?" She nodded slowly. "I've spent my whole life trying to earn my father's approval while hating what he stands for. It's time to choose a side. And you've chosen." "Yes." A small smile touched her lips. "Turns out standing up for what's right feels better than I expected." Zayn returned her smile. "Welcome to the hard road, though worthy one." Her eyes held his for a moment too long, something shifting between them. Unspoken, but real. Harper broke the contact first, looking back at her tablet. "The veterans are all confirmed for their roles?" "All set. James and his team will handle security coordination. Sarah's group has the presentation ready. Rodriguez and the others will manage the room logistics." "And the investors?" "3 confirmed attendees, 2 more maybes." Harper nodded, satisfaction evident. "It's really happening." "Did you doubt it would?" "Honestly, yes." She set the tablet down, rubbing her eyes tiredly. "My father has a way of making opposition disappear, of convincing people that resistance is futile." "Not this time." "No," she agreed. "Not this time." As she gathered her things to leave, Zayn walked her to the door. The night air was crisp, stars bright overhead, fall giving way to winter's approach. "Harper," he said as she stepped onto the porch, "whatever happens tomorrow night, I want you to know something." She turned, silhouetted against the porch light. "What's that?" "You're nothing like your father, never were." Her breath caught, visible as a small cloud in the cold air. "How can you be so sure?" "Because I know you, the real you." He held her gaze in the half-light, and she's someone worth fighting alongside. Harper's eyes glistened suddenly. Without warning, she stepped forward and hugged him, a quick, fierce embrace that ended before he could fully respond. Then she was hurrying to her car, composure restored, leaving Zayn standing in the doorway with the ghost of her perfume and the memory of arms around his shoulders. The Dwight Foundation annual gala was the social event of the season, held at the Grand Metropolitan Hotel. It attracted the city's elite, wealthy donors, prominent politicians, community leaders, all gathered to celebrate philanthropy while enhancing their own social standing. The perfect stage for their purpose. Zayn arrived early, entering through the service entrance as planned. The veterans were already in position. James and his team, with catering staff, Sarah near the audio-visual controls, others strategically placed throughout the venue, all in formal attire, blending in while ready to play their parts. Harper would arrive separately through the main entrance, maintaining the appearance of normalcy until the moment of truth. They hadn't spoken since the previous night, both focused on final preparations. The ballroom was a marvel of old-world elegance. Crystal chandeliers, marble columns, plush carpets underfoot. Tables draped in white linen formed concentric circles around a central stage. A small orchestra played classical music as the first guests began to arrive. Zayn moved through the space with practiced ease, his rented tuxedo allowing him to pass as just another guest. From a discreet earpiece, he could hear the veterans' status reports, everything proceeding as planned. "Eyes on Mitchell," James' voice came through, greeting guests at the main entrance. "Looks confident, no sign he suspects anything." "AV systems secure," Sarah reported. "Presentation loaded and tested. Ready on your signal." "Investors arriving now," Rodriguez added. "I'll guide them to the designated table." Zayn acknowledged each report with a tap to his earpiece. The pieces were in place. Now they just needed to wait for the right moment. The ballroom filled quickly, a sea of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. Crystal glasses clinked. Polite laughter rose and fell. The social dance of the privileged, each movement choreographed by years of practice. Mitchell worked the room masterfully, moving from group to group, the consummate host. Beside him, a woman Zayn recognized as his current girlfriend. Younger, elegant, adorned with jewelry that caught the light with every gesture. Then Harper arrived. She entered alone, wearing a midnight blue gown that made her look both powerful and vulnerable at once. Her hair was swept up, revealing the graceful line of her neck. Heads turned as she passed, conversations pausing briefly before resuming with increased intensity. Mitchell spotted her immediately. His smile faltered for just a second before reasserting itself. He said something to his girlfriend, then moved to intercept his daughter. Zayn couldn't hear their exchange, but he could read the body language. Mitchell's controlled anger, Harper's composed defiance. A brief, tense conversation that ended with Mitchell gesturing toward a table far from the center of the room, exiling her to the periphery. Harper complied without argument, taking her assigned seat with dignity and tact. Phase 1 complete. She was inside, positioned, ready. The evening progressed through its familiar rhythm. Cocktails, introductions, the call to be seated for dinner. Mitchell took the stage to welcome everyone, his voice resonant through the sound system. "Distinguished guests, friends of the Foundation, welcome to our annual celebration of community impact." Zayn listened with half an ear, monitoring the veterans' positions through his earpiece, waiting for the perfect moment. It came after the main course, as the evening transitioned to the fundraising portion. Mitchell returned to the stage, this time flanked by board members and major donors. "Tonight we celebrate not just what we've accomplished, but what we will achieve together in the coming year. Your generosity enables the foundation to extend its reach, to transform more lives, to build a stronger community for all." A sleek video presentation began, professional, emotional, showcasing the foundation's work. Smiling children, grateful seniors, improved neighborhoods. The narrative of benevolent impact, carefully crafted to open checkbooks. As the video ended to appreciative applause, Zayn gave the signal. Now, Sarah's voice came through the earpiece. "Ready in 3, 2, 1. The lights dimmed unexpectedly. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the ballroom. Then a new video appeared on the main screen. Not the planned foundation presentation, but footage of the Veterans Training Center. Veterans working with school security officers, consulting with small business owners, teaching seniors how to protect themselves from scams. Mitchell's face darkened. He gestured urgently to the AV technicians, but they seemed helpless to intervene. Sarah's work. The video continued, veterans speaking directly to the camera about what the center had meant to them, about finding purpose after service, about using their skills to protect their communities. Then came the most powerful segment, testimonials from those they had helped. A school principal describing how veteran-designed protocols had improved campus safety. A small business owner crediting the center with preventing a major theft. A senior citizen group expressing gratitude for cybersecurity training. As the video concluded, the lights came up partially. Mitchell stood frozen on stage, caught between anger and the need to maintain his public persona. That was Zayn's cue. He moved from his position at the back of the room, walking purposefully toward the stage. Conversations hushed as guests noticed him, recognized him from news coverage. Mitchell saw him coming. His expression hardened, but he made no move to stop what was happening. Too many witnesses. Too much at stake. Zayn took the steps to the stage calmly, accepting the microphone from a veteran positioned as a server. The room went completely silent, hundreds of eyes fixed on the unexpected confrontation. "Good evening," Zayn began, voice steady. "My name is Zayn Holloway. Until recently, I directed the Veteran Security Training Initiative, a program of the Dwight Foundation." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mitchell stood rigidly beside him, fury radiating from every pore. "You've just seen some of what that program accomplished," Zayn continued. "Veterans finding purpose, communities made safer, lives improved." He turned slightly toward Mitchell. "Unfortunately, the foundation recently decided to close the center, to end these community programs in favor of more profitable ventures." Mitchell stepped forward, reaching for the microphone. "This is inappropriate and unauthorized." Zayn yielded the microphone momentarily. "Give Mitchell enough rope." "Mr. Holloway is distorting the situation," Mitchell said smoothly, professional mask back in place. "The center was closed due to financial irregularities that are currently under investigation. While we value veteran welfare, we cannot continue programs that violate our fiduciary responsibilities." Zayn reclaimed the microphone. "Those allegations are false. As Mr. Dwight well knows, every dollar is accounted for, every expense documented." "That will be for investigators to determine," Mitchell countered. "Yes, it will. But in the meantime, the veterans who staff the center, the communities who benefited from its programs are left without resources, without support." On cue, the veterans positioned throughout the room stood. Dozens of them in formal attire, but standing at parade rest. A visual statement of unity, of presence. "Which is why we're here tonight," Zayn continued. "Not to attack the foundation, but to offer an alternative." He gestured, and Harper rose from her table, walking toward the stage. The room buzzed with whispers. Mitchell's daughter approaching, the drama building. "Ms. Harper Dwight, who developed and championed the original program, has a proposal to share," Zayn said, offering her the microphone. Harper took it, composed and confident, despite the tension crackling in the air. "Thank you, Mr. Holloway. Distinguished guests, thank you for your patience with this unexpected addition to the evening's program." She paused, looking directly at her father before continuing. "The Veteran Security Initiative was never just about training security personnel. It was about honoring service, utilizing specialized skills, creating community impact." Her voice strengthened. "That mission continues, even if the foundation has chosen a different path. Tonight, I'm announcing the creation of Sentinel Services, an independent organization dedicated to veteran employment, community security, and public service." On the screens around the room, a logo appeared. Professional, bold, a new beginning. "Sentinel will carry forward the work that began at the foundation," Harper continued, "expanding to meet growing needs while maintaining the core mission of service above self." Mitchell stepped forward, voice tight with controlled anger. "Harper, this is not the appropriate venue." "Actually, Father, it's the perfect venue." Her composure never wavered. "These are people who care about community impact, about meaningful philanthropy. They deserve to know there's a choice in how they direct their support." She turned back to the audience. "Sentinel launches officially next month. We've secured initial funding, a training facility, and community partners. What we need now are individuals and organizations willing to invest in veteran potential, in community security, in sustainable impact." Mitchell moved to reclaim control, but Harper wasn't finished. And to demonstrate my personal commitment to this mission, I'm investing my entire trust fund, over $2 million, as seed capital for this venture. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mitchell's face paled. His daughter had just publicly committed her inheritance to defying him. For those interested in learning more, members of our team are available at tables in the foyer. Harper concluded, "Thank you for your attention. Please enjoy the rest of your evening." She handed the microphone back to a foundation staff member and stepped down from the stage, head high. Zayn followed, the veterans throughout the room converging on the exits as planned. Behind them, Mitchell struggled to regain control of the room, but the damage was done. Dozens of guests were already rising from their tables, moving toward the foyer, curious, interested, potential allies. In the foyer, the scene was exactly as they'd planned. Small tables staffed by veterans. Presentation materials outlining Sentinel's mission and structure. The investors they'd cultivated positioned prominently, lending legitimacy to the endeavor. Harper found Zayn in the controlled chaos, eyes bright with adrenaline. It worked. They're listening. Your father? In damage control mode, but he can't stop this. Not now. Too many witnesses, too much interest. Around them, veterans engaged with potential supporters, explaining, persuading, building the foundation for something new. Your trust fund, Zayn said quietly. You really did it. Every penny. She smiled, the expression both terrified and exhilarated. No going back now. No regrets? Not a single one. They were interrupted by James, excitement evident beneath his professional demeanor. The Henderson Foundation wants to match Harper's investment. $2 million on the spot if we can get 3 more major donors. The Wilsons are in for $500,000, Sarah added, joining them. And the tech CEO Ranston wants to discuss equipment donations. Rodriguez appeared, grinning widely. Channel 7 wants interviews. Now, both of you. The evening became a blur of handshakes, explanations, commitments. The gambit had worked beyond their expectations. By presenting a clear alternative, a positive vision rather than just opposition, they tapped into something powerful, a desire for authentic impact, for meaningful philanthropy beyond tax deductions and social status. Through it all, Mitchell remained in the ballroom, salvaging what he could of his event, his fury evident to those who knew him well, but controlled beneath the veneer of professional composure. It was nearly midnight when things finally quieted. The veterans had specific instructions to document every commitment, every contact, every expression of interest, to follow up systematically in the coming days to maintain the momentum. Zayn and Harper stood in the hotel's side entrance, watching as the last guest departed, exhaustion setting in now that the adrenaline was fading. We did it, Harper said softly, leaning against the wall. Really did it. Just the beginning, Zayn reminded her. Long road ahead. I know, but tonight, she shook her head in wonder. Tonight we proved it's possible. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb. Mitchell emerged, alone now, his girlfriend nowhere to be seen. He spotted them immediately, changing course to approach with measured steps. Quite a performance, he said, voice cold despite the smile fixed on his face. Very dramatic. It wasn't a performance, Dad, Harper replied evenly. It was a declaration of independence. Mitchell's smile tightened. Independence? Is that what you call public betrayal? Undermining your own family? I didn't betray the family, Harper countered. I stood up for something that matters. Against me. Mitchell's veneer cracked slightly. You chose him, a dismissive gesture toward Zayn, over your own father, your own future. I chose myself, Harper said quietly. My own values, my own path. Mitchell's gaze shifted to Zayn. And you? You think you've won something tonight? Turned my daughter against me? Secured your little veteran project? This was never about winning, Zayn replied calmly, or about you. It was about doing what's right. Noble sentiment. Mitchell straightened his already perfect tie. But sentiment doesn't build businesses or sustain them. You've had your moment of glory. Now comes the hard part. We're ready for it, Harper said. Are you? Mitchell's expression hardened. The investigation continues. Your personal finances will be scrutinized. Your new investors will face heightened regulatory attention. Every move you make will be examined under a microscope. Threats, Dad? Really? Not threats, consequences. He looked between them. Actions have consequences. I taught you that since childhood. Zayn stepped forward slightly. So do threats, especially against innocent children. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. Meaning what exactly? Meaning Lily's scholarship is now fully funded by 3 separate donors. Her future is secure no matter what you do. Zayn's voice was quiet but firm. You overplayed your hand, Mr. Dwight. Showed too many people who you really are. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Mitchell's face. The realization that the dynamics had shifted, that his usual tactics might not work this time. This isn't over, he said finally. Not by a long shot. No, Harper agreed, but it's changing. And you can change with it or be left behind. Mitchell studied his daughter for a long moment, something like regret passing briefly across his features. Then the mask returned, the businessman, the pragmatist, the controller. Goodbye, Harper. He turned to go, then paused. When this falls apart, and it will, don't come back expecting to pick up where you left off. There won't be a place for you. I know, Dad. Her voice was sad but resolved. I've accepted that. He nodded once sharply, then walked to his waiting car. They watched in silence as it pulled away, taillights receding into the night. Are you okay? Zayn asked when the car had disappeared from view. Harper took a deep breath, exhaled slowly. Yes. No, I don't know. She looked up at the star-filled sky. I just cut ties with my father, my family. Everything I've known for something. Better, I hope. She turned to him, vulnerability showing through the composed exterior. What if he's right? What if we can't sustain this? What if it all falls apart? Zayn considered her question seriously, respecting her enough not to offer empty reassurances. Then we pick ourselves up. Try something else. Keep fighting for what matters. Just like that? Just like that. He smiled slightly. Marine Corps mentality. Adapt, overcome, never surrender. She shook her head, a small smile forming despite the weight of the moment. You make it sound so simple. Not simple, clear. He offered his arm. Come on, we both need sleep. Tomorrow's going to be busy. They walked together to the parking garage, the night air crisp around them. Tomorrow would indeed bring challenges, media inquiries, investor follow-ups, facility preparations. The real work was just beginning. But tonight they had taken a stand, chosen a path, together. The weeks following the gala unfolded in a whirlwind of activity. True to Harper's announcement, Sentinel services took shape with remarkable speed. The Henderson Foundation's matching pledge had created momentum, attracting additional investors who wanted to be part of something meaningful. By the end of the first week, they had secured enough funding to lease a modest facility on the city's east side, a former community college satellite campus with classrooms, open spaces, and even a small gymnasium. The veterans moved in immediately, transforming empty rooms into training areas, offices, and meeting spaces. Many brought personal equipment and computers, tools, specialized gear, donating what they had to get operations running. Others tapped their networks for furniture, supplies, and technology. The space came alive with purpose, with the sound of people building something from nothing. Zayn established headquarters in what had once been the campus administrative office, a large open area now filled with desks arranged in a hub-and-spoke pattern. The layout mirrored his leadership philosophy: accessible, transparent, collaborative. No corner offices, no hierarchy beyond what function required, everyone visible to everyone else. Harper sat up beside him, their desks facing each other across a shared workspace. The arrangement raised eyebrows at first, the wealthy heiress and the blue-collar veteran sharing equal footing, but it quickly became symbolic of Sentinel's ethos. Status mattered less than contribution, background less than commitment. The work itself took shape around 3 core services: security training for veterans transitioning to civilian careers, security consulting for small businesses and community organizations, and specialized safety programs for schools, senior centers, and vulnerable populations. Each area built on the foundation they'd established at the center, but with greater flexibility, broader reach, and deeper community integration. Mitchell's threatened investigation into financial misconduct quietly faded as the weeks passed. Without access to the center's actual financial records, which remained scrupulously clean, the allegations couldn't advance beyond suspicion. The foundation issued a carefully worded statement concluding its internal review without findings, effectively closing the matter while saving face. Other threats materialized in subtler forms. Permit applications for the new facility encountered mysterious delays. Potential corporate clients sometimes withdrew interest after unexplained reconsiderations. Insurance rates came in higher than market averages. The invisible hand of Mitchell Dwight's influence reaching into places they hadn't anticipated. But for each obstacle, they found workarounds. Community connections helped navigate permitting issues. Small business clients, less vulnerable to corporate pressure, formed the backbone of their client base. A veteran-owned insurance brokerage found alternative coverage at competitive rates. They adapted, persisted, refused to be deterred. Through it all, Harper remained a revelation. The woman who had grown up with every privilege threw herself into the daily grind of building a business from scratch. She worked the same long hours as everyone else, tackled unglamorous tasks without complaint, and leveraged her connections without apology. When her personal funds temporarily covered payroll during a cash flow crunch, she mentioned it only to the accounting team, treating it as a routine business matter rather than a personal sacrifice. The veterans, initially skeptical of her commitment, became her most ardent defenders. They recognized in her something they valued in their own ranks, someone who showed up, did the work, and put mission above self. The boss's daughter label faded, replaced by earned respect. Harper, no last name required. 6 weeks after the gala, on a crisp December morning, Zayn found himself standing in the facility's main training room, watching the first official class of Sentinel security trainees. 20 veterans from all service branches, ranging from recent discharges to Gulf War veterans seeking career changes. James led them through introductions, each person stating name, service background, and reason for joining her program. The scene filled Zayn with quiet pride, not triumph. He was too experienced, too realistic for that. But satisfaction in progress hard-won, in promises kept, in purpose renewed. Quite a sight, isn't it? Harper's voice came from beside him. She'd entered silently, coffee mug in hand, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. The formal elegance of the gala night replaced by practical work clothes, minimal makeup. The real Harper, comfortable in her own skin. Worth every battle, Zayn agreed. Speaking of battles, she hesitated slightly. My father's calling it a press conference this afternoon, apparently to announce a major foundation initiative. Zayn's guard immediately rose. Any details? None, but the timing seems suspicious. We're launching our first official training class, and suddenly he has a major announcement. Counter-programming. Zayn nodded, trying to steal our thunder. That would be his style. Harper sipped her coffee, watching the veterans introduce themselves. We should monitor it, be ready to respond if needed. Agreed, but let's not let it distract us from what matters. He gestured toward the training room. This is real. Whatever your father announces is just noise. She smiled, the expression warming her entire face. When did you get so wise, Holloway? Marine Corps teaches perspective. What's worth fighting for? What's just distraction? Her phone buzzed with an incoming text. She checked it, eyebrows rising slightly. Speaking of distractions, Channel 7 wants to do a feature on Sentinel. They're calling it Veterans Rising, the security force with a social mission. Good publicity. Great publicity, she corrected. They want to film tomorrow. Follow a day in the life of the organization. Interview key personnel, including you. She nodded. Both of us, as co-founders. The term caught him by surprise. Co-founders, equal partners in what they'd built. It felt right. You okay with that? She asked, noting his hesitation. With the interviews? Or with being called a co-founder? Both, I guess. Zayn considered for a moment. The interviews are necessary, the co-founder label? He shrugged. If it fits what we're building, I'm fine with that. It fits, she said firmly. This is as much yours as mine. More in some ways. Before he could respond, James approached from the training room, excitement evident in his stride. "Boss, you need to see this." He handed Zayn a tablet with a news site loaded, just published 5 minutes ago. The headline jumped from the screen: Dwight Foundation launches Veteran Employment Initiative with $10 million to pledge. Zayn skimmed the article quickly, jaw tightening as he read. Mitchell Dwight, apparently moved by the growing needs of veterans in our community, was announcing a comprehensive employment program specifically targeting veterans in security, technology, and corporate services. The foundation would partner with major corporations to create hiring pathways, subsidize training, and provide support services. "He's copying us," Harper said, reading over Zayn's shoulder, "taking our model and supersizing it with corporate backing." "Not just copying," Zayn noted, "undercutting. Their training will be fully subsidized. Corporations will guarantee job placements, benefits packages included." James whistled softly. "That's tough competition." "That's the point," Harper said, anger edging her voice. "He's trying to choke us off before we can establish ourselves. Steal our potential trainees, our market differentiation." Zayn handed the tablet back to James. "Let's not panic. This changes our landscape, but not our mission." "Easy to say," James replied. "Harder to compete with $10 million. "We're not competing on dollars," Zayn said firmly. "We're competing on values, on community impact, on what happens beyond the training and initial job placement." Harper nodded slowly, strategic thinking replacing immediate reaction. "Zayn's right. My father's program will be corporate-focused, standardized, one-size-fits-all. We offer personalization, community integration, ongoing support." "But still," James persisted, "free training and guaranteed jobs will be tempting for veterans struggling to find their footing." "Of course it will," Zayn acknowledged. "And for some veterans, that will be the right path. We should recognize that." Harper looked at him sharply. "You're suggesting we support his initiative?" "I'm suggesting we don't oppose veterans getting jobs and training, regardless of the source." Zayn's voice was steady. "If your father's program helps some veterans, good. We'll help others. Different approaches for different needs." James considered this, then nodded. "Makes sense. We position ourselves as complementary, not competitive. The specialized option versus the mass market approach." "Exactly." Zayn turned to Harper. "Your father expects us to attack, to cry foul, to make this personal. We don't give him that satisfaction." For a moment, Harper looked like she might argue. The instinct to fight her father's manipulations ran deep, but then her expression cleared, understanding dawning. "You're right. We take the high road. Welcome another resource for veterans. Then we prove our model works better for those we serve." A slow smile spread across her face. "He won't expect that." "No, he won't," Zayn agreed, "which is why it's the perfect response." James excused himself to return to training, leaving Zayn and Harper contemplating their next steps. Through the glass partition, they could see the veterans engaged in introductions, each person's story adding to the collective purpose of the room. "I keep waiting for it to get easier," Harper said quietly. "The fighting, the maneuvering, the constant need to outthink him." "Some battles never end," Zayn replied. "They just change form." "Is that the Marine in you talking? The realist?" He turned to face her fully. "Your father will never stop trying to control the narrative, to dominate the space, to prove he's right and we're wrong. That's who he is." "So we just keep fighting forever?" "No." Zayn's expression softened. "We keep building, creating something so clearly valuable that even he can't tear it down. Success is our best defense." Harper considered this, her gaze returning to the training room, to the veterans finding new purpose, to the mission taking physical form before their eyes. "Then we better get back to work," she said finally. "We've got a lot of building to do." As they turned to go, Zayn's phone rang. Mrs. Carter's number. A spike of concern shot through him. She only called during school hours if something was wrong with Lily. "Excuse me," he said to Harper, stepping away to answer. "Mrs. Carter, everything okay?" The older woman's voice came through, tight with controlled worry. "Zayn, I'm at the school. Lily's fine, but there's a situation. The principal called me because they couldn't reach you." "What situation?" "Someone tried to pick Lily up, said they were sent by you." Zayn's blood ran cold. Who? A woman. Claimed to be a family friend. Had ID and everything, but Lily didn't recognize her, and she wasn't on the approved list. So the school called me instead. Is Lily with you now? Yes, we're in the principal's office. She's a bit confused, but not upset. I'm on my way. Don't leave with anyone, not even someone claiming to be from me. I'll be there in 15 minutes. He ended the call, heart hammering in his chest. Harper had moved closer, concern evident on her face. What's wrong? Someone tried to take Lily from school, a stranger claiming I sent them. The words felt strange in his mouth. Surreal. Harper's face paled. My father. I don't know. But the timing? Suspicious. Mitchell's press conference, the veteran initiative, and now this. I need to get to the school. I'll drive, Harper said immediately. You're too shaken up. He started to protest, then realized she was right. His hands were trembling slightly, adrenaline and fear making fine motor control difficult. Okay, let's go. As they hurried to the parking lot, Zayn's mind raced through contingencies, scenarios, countermeasures. Whatever came next, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The battle had just become deeply personal.